One of the most touching stories from the Bible is the parable of the prodigal son found in the Gospel of Luke. In a small village nestled among rolling hills, there lived a wealthy and kind-hearted man. He had 2 sons, the younger of whom was filled with restlessness and a thirst for adventure. The younger son longed to explore the world beyond the familiar borders of the village and yearned for freedom from his father's watchful eye. One day, the younger son mustered up the courage to approach his father. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, he said, "Father, I have grown weary of the confines of this village. I wish to set forth on my own journey. Please grant me my share of the inheritance so that I may pursue my dreams." The father, though saddened by his son's request, understood the restlessness that tugged at his heart. Reluctantly, he divided his wealth between his 2 sons, giving the younger son his rightful portion. The young man rejoiced at his newfound freedom and wasted no time in gathering his belongings. With a heavy purse and dreams in his eyes, he bid farewell to his family and set off into the unknown. For a time, the young prodigal son reveled in a life of indulgence and excess. He squandered his wealth on lavish parties, extravagant feasts, and the company of those who sought to take advantage of his naivety. He thought he had found happiness and fulfillment in the pleasures that money could buy. However, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the prodigal son's fortune dwindled. The once boisterous and lavish parties gave way to empty pockets and a deep sense of emptiness within his soul. Soon, a severe famine struck the land, leaving the prodigal son destitute and desperate. He found himself in a foreign land, far from home, without a penny to his name. The friends who had reveled in his wealth and prosperity quickly abandoned him in his time of need. Brought to his knees by hunger and desperation, the prodigal son found himself longing for the security and love he had forsaken. In the depths of his despair, a flicker of hope ignited within him, a glimmer of the life he had once known, a life filled with a father's love and care. With a heavy heart and a humble spirit, the prodigal son resolved to return home, not as a son seeking his father's wealth but as a servant seeking his father's mercy. He rehearsed the words he would speak, begging his father to accept him back, even if it meant laboring in the fields. As the prodigal son neared his village, he saw a figure in the distance, a silhouette that seemed vaguely familiar. As he drew closer, his heart skipped a beat. It was his father, running toward him with open arms. Overwhelmed with a mixture of guilt, shame, and longing, the prodigal son fell to his knees, his eyes welling up with tears. He whispered, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But before he could utter another word, his father's embrace enveloped him, holding him tightly. The father's voice, filled with love and compassion, rang out, "My son, you were lost, but now you are found. You were dead, but now you are alive. Come, let us celebrate your return." In that moment, the prodigal son experienced a flood of emotions, a mixture of relief, joy, and overwhelming gratitude. His father's unconditional love had shattered the chains of guilt and shame that bound him. The celebration that followed was filled with laughter, tears, and a profound sense of reconciliation. Meanwhile, the prodigal son's older brother, who had remained faithful and responsible, was working diligently in the fields. As he approached the village, he heard the sound of music and merriment. Confused, he asked one of the servants what was happening. The servant smiled and said, "Your younger brother has returned. Your father has thrown a grand celebration to welcome him back." The older brother's heart sank, and a cloud of anger and resentment descended upon him. He couldn't comprehend why his father would celebrate the return of someone who had squandered his inheritance. The older brother felt overlooked and unappreciated for his loyalty and hard work. Reluctantly, he made his way to the festivities, his face etched with a mixture of curiosity and bitterness. As he entered the courtyard, he saw his father, radiant with joy, and his younger brother, surrounded by friends and family, rejoicing in his return. Unable to contain his frustration any longer, the older brother approached his father and said, "Father, all these years I have served you faithfully, never once disobeying your commands, and yet you have never thrown a celebration for me. But when this son of yours returns, after wasting your wealth, you celebrate and shower him with your love. It's not fair." The father, with eyes filled with compassion, reached out to his eldest son and said, "My dear child, you have always been with me, and all that I have is yours. But your brother was lost and has now been found. It is only fitting that we rejoice and be glad." The older brother stood in silence, his heart wrestling with conflicting emotions. He realized that while he had been physically present, his heart had become entangled in bitterness and self-righteousness. In that moment, he understood the depth of his father's love and the power of forgiveness. With a heavy sigh, the older brother let go of his resentment and joined the celebration. He embraced his younger brother, tears streaming down his face, and they reconciled. The love that had been fractured was now restored, creating a bond that was stronger than ever before. From that day forward, the prodigal son's life was forever transformed. He humbled himself, grateful for his father's unconditional love and forgiveness. He became a source of inspiration and hope to others who were lost, sharing his story of redemption and the power of second chances. The parable of the prodigal son continues to resonate with people throughout the ages. It serves as a reminder that no matter how far we may stray or how deeply we may fall, there is always a path back to love, forgiveness, and acceptance. It illustrates the profound grace and compassion of God, who eagerly awaits our return and embraces us with open arms. As we reflect on this story, may we find solace in the knowledge that we are never beyond redemption. May it inspire us to extend forgiveness and love to others, just as the Father did for his prodigal son. May it remind us to be grateful for the blessings we have and to cherish the relationships that enrich our lives. And may we always remember that, in the arms of love and forgiveness, there is healing, restoration, and an everlasting hope. God bless you all and amen.